Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. And I'm going to need a drink before we get started because even though I'm kind of over my illness, I still get a bit of a hack and it dries up my throat really quickly. So, anyways, here we are. This is Tuesday night. We're going to be doing an episode of ranking the songs off an album. This is a bi-weekly show that comes out every second week, obviously. Alternates with album sides. So last week we did album sides. This week we're doing ranking the songs off an album. For those of you new, basically I take the 5 or 6 songs on the album, or in this 5 or 6 on this case, and I rank them from my least favorite to my most favorite. I think the last one I did had like 9 or 10. I think it was 9. So this tends to be an interesting show for me because I get to think about these songs individually as opposed to one whole thing, which is normally the way I do it. And and I get to rank them according to how I like them. Also, it gives people a chance to think about the songs and how they like them as well. Seems to be fairly popular. A lot of people tend to like it. Some like some episodes of it more than others. I'm not sure how this one will go. This is In the Court of the Crimson King, which is the album we're doing today. The debut album from King Crimson, of course. One of the great covers in rock history, I think. Only 5 tracks on this album. Really tough to rank this album because, I'll be honest, all 5 of these songs I like a lot now. Even 21st Century Schizoid Man, which was a song that I first heard when I was listening to April Wine years ago, because they had a version of it and I didn't really care for it, and then later I discovered it wasn't an April Wine song, and I was only probably, when I first heard that, I was probably like 15, and then my friend said, no, that comes from a band called King Crimson, really heavy progressive rock band. And so I went and I remember hearing on the radio their version of it and thinking, wow, that is really different. But I only heard it once, and this wasn't in that time period. People say, well, how come it took you so long? Well, in that time period, you had to own the album, especially with a band like this, because you didn't get much radio play, so you didn't get to hear them like you would some of the other stuff. You would hear the odd version of 21st Century Schizoid Man. You would hear that on occasion. And I actually think I heard In the Court of the Crimson King once on the radio too. But it was usually on a special show, some special show they were putting together, and they put some stuff in there that you didn't normally hear, because this is not a radio friendly band, at least not when I was growing up. So unless you owned the albums, you didn't really hear this music. And you often didn't even know about the albums coming out until they were actually in the record store when you went there, because it wasn't unless you bought the magazines that told you when these things were coming out, because there was no internet or any of that, so there was no way of knowing when this stuff would come out. And then often when I got to the store, I kind of had an idea when I would go to the store what I wanted to buy, and generally speaking, back in that time period, I only had a very limited amount of funds, so it was a rare occasion that I would go to the store, see something that I wanted, that I had known I was going to get, and see something else I wanted, and then switch my mind. It just didn't happen very often. So I did see this in the record store and think it was pretty cool looking, but I had gone there for a specific album, and that's the one I got. Anyways, having said all that, there are 5 tracks on this album. All of them really good. No bad tracks here at all. This is to me, one of the great progressive rock albums out there. Definitely the album that brought this group to me. I've since I'm now on the 4th studio album in my playlist and enjoying that a lot as well. So at this point in time, I still think this is the best of their albums. That could change though, but at this point I do. So we're going to rank them according to the normal standard in which I work. I go from worst to first, or least to best, or in this case 5th to first. So I'll give you my 5th pick first. So Even though I've warmed up to the song quite a bit over the years, it's still going to come here at number 5, and that's 21st Century Schizoid Man, which includes mirrors on this. So, really good track. Heavy. Vocals are really good. Guitar is outstanding on this. Like, just a really strong, heavy flavor to it. I can see why heavy metal bands liked this album quite a bit. This is actually got that heavy sound to it. It's progressive as hell. It's really unique. I don't think there's anything that quite sounded like this, especially back in '69, which is when this was released. The number 4 song is probably going to be the title track, In the Court, The Court of the Crimson King, Return of the Fire Witch, and the Dance of Puppets, which are the 2 parts to it. Really, really good song. Probably the next heaviest song on the album. It's funny, the 2 heaviest songs, which usually in my case are the 2 songs I like the most, are the 2 songs I like the least. Although I don't dislike either of these, I like them quite a bit. Especially this one, really, really good, heavy song. Lots of great vocals on this by Greg Lake. I think this is a fantastic version of his voice. The next track up is probably Moonchild, The Dream, The Illusion. Really catchy track. I love the sound of his voice on this. Again, guitar part is really good. This is a little bit more pastoral in its sounds, quieter. Some people, I've seen some people who like the 2 bookends, the first and the last track, and don't like that middle stuff that's kind of softer, and then some only like the middle stuff and don't like the bookends. I tend to be more like that. However, in my case, I've grown to like everything on it. So Moonchild will come in 3rd. Number 2, this was a tough one because I really like both of these tracks a lot. One of them's more famous than the other one, well more known than, and favored a little bit more on, especially on this YouTube family on the YouTube sites. But I like them both just almost as equal. I think I'm gonna go with "Talk to the Wind" as my number 2. This is to me the best vocal part by Greg Lake on the album. His voice is catchy. This is almost mystical in its catchiness. I listen to this song with my headphones a lot because I really like it. It's a more of a quiet, somber-ish song. Really good song. I love it. And of course, that leaves only the last track, which is number 3 on the album, but number 1 for my ranking, and that's Epitaph, including March for No Reason and Tomorrow. So good, this track. Maybe my favorite King Crimson track of all time. Definitely belongs to me. I think it had to be number 1, even though I like Talk to the Wind quite a bit. I still think this is still the number 1 track on this album. Really catchy. Most people, I feel, who listen to King Crimson think it's one of the best tracks. It's either, in most cases, it's either the favorite track on the album or they don't like it at all. You know, it's kind of a funny thing that way. Anyways, that was my rankings for King Crimson's The Court of the Crimson King. I'll just go over the ranking one last time. So you have Epitaph in number 1 spot. I Talk to the Wind, number 2. Number 3 is Moonchild. Number 4, The Court of the Crimson King. And last, but definitely not a very least song, really good song, 21st Century Schizoid Man. I bet you there's people out there have this absolutely flipped upside down. They'll have it exactly the opposite the way I have it. So, anyways, great album, one that deserves a lot of attention and talking about. I think it's one of the great albums in the history of rock, and I wanted to do a song ranking from a group I hadn't done King Crimson. So there you go. So please hit the like and subscribe button if you've enjoyed this episode. If you got any comments or you want to list these songs in your own list below, I'd like to see how people view it and why. Don't just list it if you got a particular reason why you like something. Maybe it touched you in a certain way, or maybe you heard it and it had a memorable impact on you somewhere. I like those little stories because that's how music works for me. I may love a particular song that everybody else hates, but because it touched me in a different way than it touched them. So, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of the content. And we will see you next week when we'll be doing an episode of Album Sides. So take care and have a good day. Goodbye.